Welcome to Smart Women Talking, the podcast that brings you unfiltered wisdom from women who have lived it all. From the boardroom battles to raising families, there are no topics that are off limits. And every conversation that you hear is going to be a treasure trove of insights, experiences, and heartfelt stories. I'm Polly Meyer, along here with the fabulous Barbara Zuleger, and today we're talking about growth. More importantly, growth through reflection, meaning how reflecting on our experiences can be tools for future growth. Let me explain what I mean. So, have you ever heard the song "The Bear Goes Over the Mountain"? You may have sang it when you were young, when you were on those camping trips with your parents, and the parents would turn around and say, "Shut up," because the song just made them absolutely crazy.
A little bit like 99 bottles of beer on the wall, right?
Like 99 bottles of beer on the wall, or
But for
"This is the
children.
song that never ends," right? It just goes on and on, my friends. Somebody started singing it and not knowing what it was, and someone else starts singing it, and it goes on forever just because it is the song that never ends. Okay, so The Bear That Goes Over the Mountain, that's one of those kinds of songs. And it goes like, the bear goes over the mountain, the bear goes over the mountain, the bear goes over the mountain to see what it can see. So what did it see? The bear saw another mountain, the bear saw another mountain, the bear saw another mountain. And it goes on something like, so what did the bear do? Or something like that. The bear climbed over the mountain, the bear climbed over the mountain. So basically, this is what happens with us as women. We have mountains in front of us, and all we do is climb over those mountains. And once we get over that mountain, whatever that mountain is for us, what do? We see another mountain, and we
Right.
climb over that mountain. And then once we get over that mountain, what do? We see another mountain, and we climb over that mountain. But we rarely pause and look back over the mountain that we just climbed. Over that mountain was the journey. Over that mountain, or those mountains, were the valuable lessons, the challenges, the successes, the setbacks, the insights, the growth, the people, the connections that we made along the way. We rarely take stock of those mountains and the journey. What we do is we just go on to that next mountain, right?
Right.
And it's exhausting. And part of that exhaustion is because we never pause to celebrate, the journey or the small wins. And it's in this pausing, Barb, that makes the journey worthwhile. It's the noticing, it's the acknowledging, it's the reflecting that adds depth and breadth and flavor to our lives. It's in the noticing and the acknowledging and the reflecting where we discover our growth, because half the time we don't discover how much we've grown. We just are exhausted, right? It's in the reflecting and the acknowledging and the noticing where we find our joy and our satisfaction, because it's tucked into the nuances. It's where we find the small successes, right? Or the aha moments. It's in the noticing and the reflecting and the acknowledging that is where we actively shape ourselves into the women that we want to become as we climb that next mountain ahead of us. And you and I talked about this just before we hopped on, about how we are so busy climbing our mountains. And the journey is sometimes so long and tedious that once we get close to success, or once we achieve our success, that we rarely celebrate it. And if we do, it's with, a clink of a wine glass, and then it's behind us. Instead of giving it its due.
We're always looking for the next mountain.
Because we're always looking for the next frickin' mountain. Right. Right.
I think part of that is because most of us, many of us, dream big, right? We can see what's right in front of us and we can see what's way out there where we want to get to. We don't know everything that's in between, which is sometimes a good thing because We may not have chosen to climb the kind of mountains we chose.
Case in point is this podcast. If I had known the
Yes.
mountain, I mean, I still feel like we are at we're not at the foothill. We're not at the base of the mountain anymore. You know, we've climbed up the mountain as far as the amount of work that had to go into producing something like this. But yeah, sometimes it's better not to know the step because
Well,
or the journey.
and
Yeah.
the further up you climb, the more you can see what is it's going to take to continue climbing that mountain, right? And I think
Yes.
about our whole lives, right? From when we were young women in our, let's say, even in our late teens, whatever we thought our lives was going to be, whatever that was our plan, right? Or even if we thought about what our life was going to be, if we knew the mountains in the way, would we have done it?
So Barb, this is something that you actively do with your own clients, that self-reflection piece, correct?
Right. And when we do like an annual one, and I know you've been able to participate in that numerous times, Polly, which is it's always fun to have people come year after year, and they do. When somebody comes for the first time, it can be a little overwhelming for them to do because we spend 6, 8 hours together, and we do reflecting. We do what's on the other side of that mountain we're currently on. Where are we trying to get to, so that we can outline, those next few steps. But a good chunk of our morning is spent reflecting on how did you get here? What did you have to go through? What were your wins? What were your challenges? Sometimes we don't recognize either one of those things for what they are until we can reflect on them. Sometimes we don't notice them in the moment. And part of that is because sometimes when we're in the middle of challenges, right, we're just head down, working hard. I told you the story about me taking clients whitewater rafting, right?
Yeah.
I did that early in my career as a coach. We took all our clients whitewater rafting. We loved doing these events because afterwards, then we could recap and say, okay, so how did you? Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So how did you react when you were given a specific role in the boat? How did you react when we were in the wild water? Um, and how do you react when those kind of things show up in your business? Was the
Yes,
purpose
because
behind
you
the
also
exercise?
shared a story about that with your position in it. Your
Yes,
position in that boat was to be a
right.
paddler, and then you shared something about what happened when you actually hit
Well,
the white water.
I did as we were recapping, and so I'm self-reflecting as well while we're walking clients through recapping that or reflecting on it. And I realized that when the water gets rough, I'll do it. I'll do anything I have to do, depending on where I'm at in life. But I will tend to close my eyes and hold on and let the waves move me around and not try to control them and just hope it passes quickly. And I
Mm.
realized as I was thinking that this might be the only time I ever go whitewater rafting. And did I appreciate all the things I could experience going through those challenges because I was just holding on for dear life, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you do when you're in those white waters of life or in, climbing up that really steep part of those mountains? Are we taking time in that moment to reflect on what are we feeling? What are we sensing? What's going on around us? So reflection, yes, at our annual goal setting meetings, we reflect on the previous year. We reflect on everything since we came into the business we're running. But we also want to reflect on right this moment, right? What's going on around you this moment? Because it's those small moments that really make a difference in us having the energy for that next step.
You know what I appreciate about reflection is to gain a deeper understanding of who I am, who Polly is. What is Polly capable of? And so when I do my reflection and I ask, what was my biggest challenge or what were my biggest challenges here? I can gain an understanding then of why it was a challenge. Was it fear? Uh,
Yes.
was it a communication challenge? Was it a business challenge? And then as I worked my way through it, to look back and ask myself, what worked well? I want to know what worked well, what strategies or what mindset or what actions I took that worked well. Because if I find myself in a place like that again, I want to know what my strengths are so that I can leverage them again in the future. Two, I want to have an idea of, as I look back, what do I wish I had done more of? Now that I'm on the other side of it, what do I wish I had done more of?
Mm,
As I
yes.
climbed that mountain and I looked back, what do I wish that I had done less of? If I'm working towards a goal, do I wish I had spent less time doing something else that was stealing away my time and my energy and my focus? What do I wish I would have started doing?
What can I do now that my future self will thank me for?
Exactly. I and,
Yep.
and I think about my future self a lot as I'm doing reflecting. I'm thinking of my future self a lot, asking, if this is where future Polly is, what does future Polly need from present Polly so that I
Yep.
can go meet her on that next frickin' mountain?
Right. And that's why we do the planning the way we do it, right? We start with reflection. We start with wins. We start with what have you accomplished? What have you let go of? What challenges did you go through? And doing that in a group setting too, we get the opportunity to hear other people's wins and other people's challenges they got through. And often what comes out of that is, oh, well, I guess I did that too. I never thought of that as a win, but that's a win.
And
Or,
and wins are so important.
yes.
Acknowledging wins is so important. And we don't do that enough. Do you know why? Because we have young children or sometimes adult children who still need our care and our love. We have our clients, we have our projects, we have our hobbies, we have our partners, we have commitments and obligations, and
Hmm.
there's barely space, mental space to stop and savor the wins.
Well, and I think too, when you and I both raised large families, and when our children were
Mhm.
little, I know this was my experience, there was always an outside force that was impacting my use of time, that was impacting, you know, the first thing my brain thought of when you talked about mountains was the mountains of laundry, right? I mean, just little things like that, right? That impact us as moms when our kids are young. You and I are both past that, but we still, it's still there, right? It's still something to reflect on, all of those components that we got through. And sometimes I think when you're in the middle of that phase of life, I felt like everybody else has got this together. Why is this such a challenge? And the truth is, when we can talk about these things in a group setting, whether that's a business goal setting event or whether it's a, coffee with friends or whether it's, connecting with people even online, and we can talk about this is the challenge I'm facing right now. And somebody else is saying, oh my gosh, I'm in the same place. Or somebody else is saying, I just was able to get past that challenge and here's how I did it. So reflection isn't just a solo activity, right?
And
Reflection is something best done when we can talk it out a little bit. Journaling is a great way to talk it out if you are, prefer to do that by yourself or if that works best for you. And I think another big benefit to journaling is you can do it multiple times a day. If something's on your mind, you can do it once a week. You can do what works for you, but do something to help you reflect on the recent past. Because if you can go back and look at it a year later, 5 years later, I know some people will keep their whole list of their whole set of journals. Do that kind of reflection as well if you've got that, because it tells you how far you've come. And it's easy when we take things one step at a time to forget that this is mountain number 300, not mountain number two,
right, that
right? And we're
offers a really
here.
great perspective.
It does to look back and being able to talk it through with somebody gives you that sounding board. That voice in our heads is not always kind to us. And
True.
instead of seeing the way we got through a challenge as a win, we might just keep beating ourselves up about that being a challenge we didn't need to go through. Well, for some reason, we
Mhm.
did need to go through it, whether it was self induced or a situation that was out of our control. It still was a challenge for us. What's a challenge for Polly might not be a challenge for me, and vice versa.
True.
right? I
True.
mean, you and I have a lot in common, but we also do a lot of things differently. That's
And acknowledging those challenges is so important for our growth as well. Uh, some of them can be very humbling, these challenges, but
mhm.
ultimately they are a part of our hero's journey. And we have many heroes' journeys ahead of us and behind us, but they are all there to add to our humanity. They make us very human, and they add to our substance as women as we grow. They also add to the wisdom that we accumulate over the years so that we can then share space, we can hold space with
Mhm.
someone who is going through a similar challenge. And then we can offer our experiences, our substance, our depth, our breadth, our wisdom, our education. So none of the challenges, none of those mountains are wasted. But it's important to look back so that you can accumulate this knowledge and this depth and this shaping of our hearts, minds, and souls as we go through it all.
And when we do that, we should share that. That's what we're
Oh,
doing here with
absolutely.
Smart Women Talking, right? That's a piece of why we wanted to do this podcast. Is we haven't experienced everything, thank goodness, or that's too bad, one or the other, depending on which way we look at it, right? But when we can share our reflections and what we've learned, that wisdom really spreads. And I think women in particular have a opportunity to really kind of build that web is what comes to mind for me that supports all of us, right? If we are open about what we've experienced, good and not so good, or what we didn't experience and wish we had, or what we didn't experience and we're grateful that we didn't because it wasn't right for us, right? So each of us has our own piece of that. And when we can reflect on it, I think we are less likely to climb exactly the same mountain in the same way again.
You're bringing up something that I'm currently experiencing. So I'm part of a leadership cohort, and there's 60
Mm-hmm.
of us, and we meet once a month. And we have vulnerable and courageous conversations. And as we are moving through these circles, these groups of people, we spend time with sometimes 6 people in the cohort, sometimes us with 10, sometimes we're with the entire group of 60. And these courageous conversations, what I'm discovering is that women don't necessarily have that web that you just brought up, that because it is important for us to have this web, but we have so much isolation now. We don't
Yeah.
have the sewing circles that our mothers or our grandmothers had, where they would come together and as they're doing work they would share conversations, they'd talk about life and relationships and children and work, and spirituality and challenges and love and aging. We don't have that anymore. And because our lives are so damn busy, with hockey and with soccer and with dance and with career and with Boy Scouts and with catechism and with traveling and with relationships, we are stretched so thin that we don't often reach out to other women
Mm-hmm.
because we think they are just as exhausted as we are. And we don't want to burden them with that. So, what I'm discovering with this leadership cohort is that women do not necessarily have that web that we all desperately need.
Well, and I think we've almost forgotten how to build that web.
Good point.
If right now we can be so isolated and we can see so many more things we want to do, we should do, we could do, right? That we're always chasing these things. That's one of the reasons why personal goals are so important. And yeah, I work on business goals, but personal goals are just as essential, maybe probably even more so. If we don't know what our values are or what we want out of life, and we don't have to know, I want the White House on the hill with the 1.2 dogs. And I mean, we don't need to know that kind of detail, but we need to know how we want to feel. What's the life we want to live? What's the legacy we want to leave in some form or another? Basically, how do we want to impact others? right? If we don't know that, how do we determine what we're going to do each day, each week, each year? We have to make those choices. And you know,
So what I'm hearing is that you're saying that you need to make the choice to develop that web.
yes, we need to know what we want from that. What do we have to share, and where would we like to? Who would we like to be sharing that with? We have to be intentional about finding opportunities to make those personal connections with people, even if it is, you know, through Zoom or online. And I think when we're talking about reflection, it goes back to what are your personal priorities and what is creating noise in that setting for you? What is getting in the way of what you really want to be doing? When we were talking about this topic earlier, we talked about what do you need to stop doing, right? Where are you trying to get to? And what's getting in the way? And is it something that you need to tackle? Is it a challenge? Is it something required? Is it part of the mountain you need to climb right now? Or is it a distraction?
Is that mountain ahead of you that you're just about to climb? Is that a distraction?
Right. Is it the right mountain? I don't know. You know, I do know, Polly, you and I both have done this, but over our years in our careers, oh, well, I'm feeling stuck. I need to take one more course. I need one more certification. I need to go on one more, you know, conference or retreat. And sometimes those are exactly what we need. And sometimes they're a distraction because what we really need for our next step is usually within us, at least to the point where we can identify it and we can identify, okay, I do need someone I can talk through this with, or I do need some time alone to really dig deep into this. But what is the noise that we are allowing? I don't know how many courses I've taken, and tell myself I'm going to finish this course because I'll be honest, I'm an 80% person. I have a lot of books 80% read. I mean that's that's just kind of I get bored, I move on. Oh, I have another good idea. We're going to do that. It's called being an entrepreneur in my world. But when I take some of these courses and I realize this is the same stuff I teach my clients, but I'm still missing some of it somewhere because I'm not doing enough of it. Or this is something I learned 5 years ago. Is it still relevant for me? Do I need to continue with this course, or am I just looking for ways? So it's finding the right tools along the way that help us have those reflections. So our next step can potentially move us forward and we can enjoy and find joy in more of those pieces along the way.
Yeah, and in doing so, it adds to who you are as a human being, right? It's shaping you for what comes ahead. It is building your resilience. It's building your confidence. It's building your knowledge. It's building your inner knowing. It's building your self-trust. So yeah, if we stop and pause and take a look back over the mountain that we've just walked over and assess it, then going forward, we can continue to build on that as we go forward, to build who we are.
Right.
So, Barb, if you could summarize all that we've talked about, what would you want the listener to walk away with from this podcast?
Is really appreciating where we're at now, right? Open your eyes in the whitewater as well as enjoying the calm rides down. Sometimes we may close our eyes in the whitewater rafting as I did, or we may get so bored halfway down the river that we've lost all focus and we just want to start over again or get out and walk or whatever that is. So, what I want people to do is number one, take that reflection time. The reflection doesn't have to be always a year ago or 10 years ago or whenever. It can be today. What did you notice in your life today, right? What can you reflect on? What went well? There's always something, so find it, right? Don't tell yourself it was just an awful day. Just find that what went well in your life today. What did you learn about yourself? What are you facing that you know you can get through?
I like that one too. If I could add one more, it would be a reflection challenge, like a daily or a weekly or a monthly or a yearly, and write down your top 3 personal growth moments. And you are building your substance each time you do this.
Would you do that on a daily basis? Is that what you were thinking?
It could be done daily and weekly. It's easy to do daily, right? Because even
Mhm.
those small little moments count. My big thing was that instead of texting, I actually picked up the phone and called somebody. That's a big thing for me. I'm a natural introvert.
Yes.
So those little things add up. I got to the gym today and I worked out until I built up a sweat. I held firm to my emotional boundaries today would be another one. I stood firm. I honored my boundaries today. So all of these things are working towards something.
Because sometimes winning, looking at things from the perspective of a win, means judging it. And reflection isn't about judging what you've been through, it's about acknowledging it,
Mm,
right? And being aware of it and knowing that it's helping to build you, who you are today, and who you'll be tomorrow. Like, what are you going to do today, this week, this month, this year, that your future self will be grateful for? Is it going to the gym? Is it picking up the phone and calling that family member you haven't talked to in 6 months? Is it, what is it for you that's going to help you? Your future self is going to look back and say, I'm so glad you did that. I know that was hard to
right.
do, and I'm so glad you did it. So, those personal growth moments, I think, are really an important part of life. And if we can take the time, for those of us who are in, active careers, we often will either, take a specific time of the week where we plan the next week. That's a great time also to do those 3 personal growth thoughts. Or when you're, snuggled up under the blanket with a cup of tea and or a glass of wine and your
Yeah,
journal. What?
that's a great idea. Boy, this 30-minute goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Well, thank you for joining us again today for another great episode of Smart Women Talking, where women's wisdom doesn't whisper. It speaks boldly and unapologetically. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Smart Women Talking.
Go forth and be awesome.